when we, it is said here, even I would say the same thing in respect of Resolution A. To now say, send this text to Section 4, to a committee appointed by the Archbishop of Canterbury, it simply means we are rejecting the draft that was prepared by the Covenant Design Group, and this is like a review body of the Covenant Design Group's text. What input are they going to have, this so-called new committee? What input are they going to have? What input do they have? If the input is merely by the voices of those who have been expressed in the discernment group, that is not the voices of the provinces, because the complaint was that the provinces did not have sufficient time to look at this new Section 4. So I don't see how we are going in circles. We really are going in circles. Let us not play around. I think we are playing around with a lot. Archbishop Aspinall, I thank you for your attempt. I'm quite sure you're sincerely trying to make an attempt to try and find a way out. But I would now say that we should respect the Covenant Design Group's formulation of that text. And that text which they gave in Section 4 is a text that was worked on by a very representative, eminent people who have studied this in relation to the responses that were received to the St. Andrew's draft on the appendix. So they have done their work. So to appoint another committee now to look at their work, at their text, is to say, now we need to override them. And I think it is an act of disrespect. Personally, Bishop Chairman, I'd just like to suggest, let us just try and get ourselves going. I would like to propose that Resolution A be now put to a vote. Let us just vote on it, and if that is carried, then we will have to look at the next resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stanley. It is my judgment that this is an amendment which has been properly moved and needs further debate before it be put, or that we move to put anything at this stage. Rose,
Rose Hudson-Wilkin in the Church of England. I want to thank the design group of this conference that has enabled people in smaller groups to be able to speak to each other and hopefully to listen to each other. And in a big plenary like this, we've already seen that it's the same people speaking over and over again. However, I think what I want to say is this new resolution does provide us with the opportunity of actually hearing each other. What was being said quite clearly within the discernment group by some people is that Section 4 needed more work done on it in order for it to have the full approval, or for people to feel confident in the way that people feel confident about Sections 1 to 3. And I don't think it hurts if we say we want to listen to each other, then let's listen to each other. We've already spent £50,000 listening. It's not going to hurt if we add another few months to this and make sure we get it right. It seems as if we're saying we want to listen, but we will only listen to the bits that suits us. Come on, please, let's really listen to each other. And I think that this new resolution in front of us is much, much better than what we had before, because it does bring in the opportunity for more work to be done in that particular section, which will be meeting the needs of those who are saying, please, can we do some more work on this, which was not part of what they had before. And I think as part of the listening process we need to do that. Thank you.
Point of order. Point of order. Chairman, I don't see how we can go to a new resolution C, which is really an amendment to B, when we haven't resolved A. I don't see how we can jump to C.
It's a question before the House, and before we decide, I think we need to hear some more voices. Bishop Manine.
With all my respect to the wisdom of my colleague, Archbishop Philip Espinel, I see that Resolution C is also deferring Section 4. In this way, I see it not very different from Resolution A. And I'm confused. I'm confused why Resolution A would be given the priority to be discussed. And then now, Resolution C will be given the priority to be discussed. Is this an attempt to put aside Resolution B? Why we give a priority? Why not to discuss Resolution B in the first stage? Why to discuss the contrary first?
Janet Triskel from Southern Africa. I'm probably as confused as the rest of you, but as I understand this amendment, what it's trying to do is amend both A and B and incorporate them in a new Resolution C. So we're not losing the issues in A, we're not losing the issues in B, but we're trying to deal with them so that we don't end up with confusion. And so some of the speakers to this amendment are now talking about the substantive points raised in Section C. But I stand in support of this amendment because what it does is it takes the debate about Section 4 and it takes the issues raised in parts A and B and it tries to put them together in a logical way. If we go for this C, the big C, the new draft resolution, what we can then do is we can debate each one of the A to F 6 points and make up our minds on each one of those. So if you are somebody who supports Section 4 as it stands, then we can make a decision. If you're someone who says we need more work on Section 4, then you can also make a decision. But that's all contained in this new Resolution C. The problem with going back to the old big A and big B is that we end up in that anomalous situation which Archbishop Philip referred to earlier, and we end up with people considering different versions of the covenant in different parts of the communion. And so I would urge support of us abandoning A and B, the big A and B, and going with this amendment, and then debating the substantive clauses A to F. Thank you.
Sarah Tomlinson, Co-opted Youth Representative. As well, a little overwhelmed by the number of A's, B's, and C's being, dropped around the room. But regardless of, the points of process, I know that a lot of us came here for an answer. The situation has gone on for so long, and goodness me, I think we're all ready for some kind of an end to it. But this is going to last for a long time. The covenant is going to be something that we take on as a communion, and it's going to last, hopefully. So, whatever we decide now, my generation is going to have to deal with. We are going to have to bear the burden of dealing with this long after, no offense, you guys aren't running the church. Sorry. So, I know that we're all keen to get this finished and get it to come to an end, but let's take the time just to consult a bit more, just to make it that bit better, to make sure that people can sign on that bit more. Otherwise, I'm going to be sorting out this mess, and the rest of the youth are going to be sorting this situation out a lot longer. And goodness knows, if we're fed up now, how do you think we're going to feel in a few years' time? Thank you.
Jerry Babian comes from Uganda. I'm speaking with pain. Section B, we spent almost a whole day in the Joint Standing Committee drafting this resolution. And as members of Joint Standing Committee, we agreed presenting Section B to the plenary. Now we are discussing Section A and B, and I thought we're in the right motion voting either for A or B, now comes in section C. Brothers and sisters, do we have the spirit of discernment among us? Is there any kind of the devil trying to craft and change things and disorganize us that we take a different direction? Did we pray to ask God's guidance about this? I don't know whether this is the devil's plan to make us change everything, and I can see people's faces. Some of them are getting angry and getting confused, and I just believe Section C is a purpose to bring confusion in the house. Can I ask that we go back to Section A and B and be more organized and orderly and know what we are doing, rather than having more confusion? And please, can we pray for the spirit of discernment to know whether we're actually doing Christian things or we're in a carnal parliament discussing state issues? Praise God.
The chair and the house, EKG, Church of Nigeria. From the way the debate is going, putting one and one together, even with A, B, C, and what has been said so far, considering also the fact that some people would like some more time to be given to the whole covenant, I am of the opinion that this House agrees to return the covenant back to the provinces with a word that is not satisfactory, or that we are not sure what to do with it, and that we want them to come up with an idea on how this communion will go. Because if we continue tinkering on this, there is a way we can come to this covenant that is before us. And myself from Nigeria, I'll be most reluctant to take whatever decision we're taking here back to Nigeria. Because Church of Nigeria, as far as we are concerned, we are pretty clear about our own position. And we are simply here to see how this church can go together. But listening from what is happening, we are simply not satisfied with that covenant document. Why don't we take it back to the owners? And those are the provinces. And let them do what they can with it. There is a limit to what we can do here, as far as we are concerned. And that's my own suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps in terms of my sister there, I just want to pause before I say what I want to say, so that I allow the spirit of prayer to be with us. The second point is just to support, and I'm thankful to Bishop Philip for this resolution, because what it really does, it addresses at least what we were raising, and it provides the issue of process. And if you look at the new resolution C quite carefully, the old A is covered by C and D, and the old B is covered by A and B in the new resolution, and the old C is covered by C and D, sorry, E and F. Let me start. The old A is covered by C and D, but at least in terms of C and D, we are given process in terms of how to go forward. And the old B is covered by A and B. Yeah, yes, B and F, E and F. And the old B is covered by A and B. So there is really nothing new in terms of this. It's just the reorganization of the old resolution. But what it does in terms of old A, it helps us in terms of process. And so I thank you, Bishop Philip, for providing that process for us. Thank you.
Thank you. We're coming to the point where we do need to decide which resolution we now focus on. Sorry, Chris, I didn't spot you there.
Chris Potter, Church in Wales, Chair, members of ACC. I thought I was confused, and I'm even more confused now. I want to go back to Resolution A and propose that we vote it down and go straight to Resolution B. I'm all for treating our provinces as adults, that they can make their own decisions about this. I feel some debate on Section C of Resolution B might clarify their position to be able to debate this back in the provinces, and that would be the speediest way of getting responses back to ACO. I get the feeling that just about everybody here wants the continuation of the union. And I was just reminded of a quote from Walter Wink we had this morning. Transfiguration is living by vision, standing foursquare in the midst of a broken, tortured, oppressed, starving, dehumanizing reality, yet seeing the invisible, calling it to come, behaving as if it is on the way, sustained by elements of it that have come already within and among us. I propose that we turn down Resolution A and move to Resolution B.
Bishop Iradu Mpango from Tanzania. The problem with Resolution C is that it hasn't come through the process and the procedure of receiving resolutions. I wonder whether this has gone through the resolution committee, so that's why it is confusing us. Thank you.
Kate, Church of Ireland. I want to speak in favour of Resolution C because I think it gives us the opportunity to debate the issues that are in A and B, but to do them clause by clause. And I also think it is much clearer than the original Resolution A, which seemed to be breaking up the covenant. And I think the danger, if we don't have a debate about looking at whether we revise, consider the covenant with Section 4, if we send it out and say to provinces, tell us your thoughts on Section 4, we know that the responses are going to come back, some of them in a few months, some of them can't respond for 2 years. I think 5 years was the longest on the form we got. And if we have people coming back over the next 6 years saying, I like the covenant but I don't like this bit, I like the covenant but I don't like that bit, we then have to collate all those different answers. And I can see it being 10, 12, 15 years. Sarah will be the only person in the room still discussing this. Whereas if we have the opportunity to look at it in this new format, it gives us the, and we may not decide to do this, whether to take another few months to get it right before we send it out now, so that when the responses come back, they are responses, rather than another 15 years of looking at this. Thank you.
We just ask for clarification on that question that's been asked. Has the Resolutions Committee had a chance over the lunch break to look at this C draft?
Mr. Chairman, the chairman of that committee has not. I think if I could make a comment on process, Mr. Chairman, we've been talking about this being an amendment. I think we're actually discussing what the process shall be as to whether we consider C in place of considering A then B. It's slightly complicated because we're already partway through discussing A. And I would be interested to hear the wording of the amendment we're said to be discussing. I think it's probably a separate an amendment which says we discard A and B and adopt C for discussion. But I'd be helped if it was clear as to what the precise question is.
I doubt very much that using a word like discard is going to help us. What I understand to be the purport of this proposed C is to keep before us all of the original large B and to insert, for us to decide whether we want it or not, two small pieces of the former A. So we will not be discarding B. It's all there. The question before us is whether we wish to proceed to take option resolution C as the way we proceed. That's the one we've got to decide. And I see the Archbishop's hand.
Thank you, Chair and members. It does seem to me that procedurally the simple way of dealing with this, having seen C, what we've seen is effectively two possible amendments to B, to additions to B. Having seen that, I think we should vote on A, and then move to B, and the extra material in C is moved as an amendment to B.
Seems to be a good deal of assent being murmured to the Archbishop's suggestion. I think that we should take the advice of our President and move in that direction. So we should resume our discussion on Resolution A and move to say whether Resolution A stands or falls. So this will become question 12. Question 12. Are people clear what I'm now asking you to vote on? But question 12 is simply, do you agree with Resolution A? Are you for or against Resolution A that we spent some time this morning debating? Are we clear? Does anybody need clarification? Are okay? Thank you. Question 13. Sorry, I'm confusing myself and you. Question 12. Are we in favour of Resolution A or are we against Resolution A? Will you indicate if your ballot paper has not been collected? Thank you. We move now to consideration of Resolution B as originally proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tony Fitchett, Chair of the Resolutions Committee at the present. I think I should thank the House for the debate on the principle of whether we want Part 4 in the Covenant or not. And I think until we got confused before lunch, we actually had quite a straightforward debate on that issue. And I thank the House for that. And that was the intention of the Resolutions Committee in putting that motion forward. Not to promote it, but to assist the House to make a decision on that matter. The text of Resolution B differs in some ways from the original draft resolution that was circulated. You will note that in Clause A, the wording is somewhat different. It used to refer to work It refers now to faithfulness and responsiveness, and that was in response to feedback which noted in particular the way the design group had listened to the provinces and responded to them as best it could, and several speakers have referred to that already this morning. So that's the rationale for that change. Section B, you'll note that there's been a subtle change from may provide an effective, from can provide an effective means to may provide, and that is designed to encompass opinions that were expressed to us that it might not. So it's somewhat softer. Section C is carefully worded to describe to whom the covenant text will be sent for decision making, and you will notice it does not talk about the provinces or to Anglican churches. It refers specifically to member churches of the Anglican Consultative Council. And if you look at the constitution of the council, there is a clear list there of what those churches are. Now, it may be that other ecclesial entities who describe themselves as Anglican may wish to subscribe to the covenant, or even other churches not Anglican may wish to do so. But at this time, and you'll notice those words in there, it is suggested that this document should go only to those churches which are listed in the schedule in the Constitution, the churches that are represented here. And finally, in clause D, we picked up on what seemed to be a fairly general feeling that waiting until 2014 would be waiting too long. So they are asked to report to ACC14, which I understand is likely to be in 2012. So that's my explanation of the changes we have made to the original draft. And of course, I would expect that after we've got through A and B, that there will be amendments moved, perhaps by Archbishop Aspinall, regarding the decision about whether we wait a few months before sending it out, so that there can be further input from the provinces. Gregory's just pointed out to me that I'd missed out one change we made. You'll notice in D, the second line talks about the processes of response to and acceptance or adoption of the covenant. And that insertion of acceptance was because of a plea from the Church of South India, whose processes are somewhat different to those of most other churches represented here. And the representative felt that adoption was too hard a word. It would be easier to have the word acceptance in there. And it seemed to us that that was perfectly reasonable. So provinces can choose whether they wish to accept it or adopt it, but in my opinion, the difference would be unnoticeable.
Thank you. Before we proceed to the substantive debate on Resolution B, I can give you the result of the vote, the ballot on question 12. Question 12 was the adoption or otherwise of Resolution A. Voting for the 17 members, voting against the 47, one abstention, and a total of 65 votes. So Resolution A is no longer before us. Debate now on Resolution B as it appears on our sheet. Are there any speakers? Janet?
Janet for Southern Africa. Chair, are you going to put each of these clauses sequentially? Because I would like to propose an amendment, but it might be that you want me to do that at a later stage.
I think in terms of our process, it would be easier if we took 4 votes, 4 clauses as they stand at the moment.
Yes.
So if you don't have an amendment to clause A at this point, I think I would advise you to follow. Are there any speakers then to resolution B? Well, yes, clause A. I was taking an overall view first, but let's take resolution B, clause small a, the first clause. Thank you, George.
Chairman, my concern is about the word draft. We are not sending a draft to the provinces. We have to send the text of the covenant to the provinces. So I would expect the resolutions committee to clarify or to make some appropriate changes so that we send a text of the covenant to the provinces. Because provinces are not supposed to alter or even to propose amendments to the text that we are sending out.
Thank you, George.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, speaking as the chair of the Resolutions Committee, that clause refers to the drafts we have received from the working group, the design group. Does not refer to the text to go out to the provinces. It may be that you wish to make some changes when you get down to clause C, but at the moment we're talking about what the design group has sent us, and I think they were specifically labelled drafts.
Right. Any further speakers to clause A? If not, then I wonder if we're ready to vote on question 13. And the question is that small clause A of resolution B, you stand A for or against? Please vote.
That's just that bit. It's not controversial. It's just say thank you. 13. Just this. That's what we're voting on.
Are there any further ballot papers to pick up? Please indicate. Thank you. Christine, there's one just in front of you, I believe. All right, thank you. We move to lowercase b, recognises the covenant may provide. Are there any speakers to clause B? If not, then this becomes question 14.
One here.
Some attention needed at the far table, Christina.